Of the incredible Michelle Bridges, who really needs no introduction, but I'm going to do a quick one anyway. She's an absolute legend and powerhouse across health, media, and entertainment. She's an author, health and fitness expert, and entrepreneur. As the founder of the 12-Week Body Transformation, she has helped thousands and thousands of people achieve healthier lives. And now, with her latest program, the Menopause Method, she's bringing a specialized approach to the nuance and complexity of healthy aging. Michelle, thank you so much for being here. I have been a fan of yours for longer than I can even remember. Thanks to our shared love of Les Mills and Body Pump.
Ah, okay. Oh my
You
God.
know, really just thank you so much for being here. It is a joy to chat to you. And I'd love to just hear a little bit about, obviously you've got such a well-known career within Australia and around the world, but what's the journey been for you in terms of how you've come to be so passionate now about perimenopause, menopause, and healthy aging?
Wow. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. That's a beautiful welcoming and opening. Um, I guess, I've been around for a while. Like I'm a 53 now year old woman. Um, my career has been since 14 and it took off on TV when I was like 35. So right smack in the middle of like my possible time to have a baby. Um, and never even thought that I was going to have one, if I'm honest.
Mm.
Uh, and fortunately I did because God, now that I know how amazing it is, and it's different for everybody, I get it. But for me, I'd have a football team by now if I'd started a bit earlier. But nonetheless, I started when I did. I had AXA when I was 45. Naturally, thankfully, through, just a blessing.
Mm.
Um, but I did a few things in order to get myself there as well. But it's I feel like I've let if I'm honest here, I feel like I let my ladies down a little bit by not doing the menopause method earlier. I've been asked for years to do a program like this, and there's a couple of pieces I kind of have to put together. One was, do I want to be that girl? Do I want to be the woman that says, "Woo, menopause"? And there was a part of me that was like, oh, I don't know if
Mm.
I want to be that. And that was possibly ego, possibly that I built my career on being, the fitness person. And then I gave myself like a swift uppercut and said, girlfriend, you're buying into this bullshit. You're buying into the um, patriarchy. You're buying into media. You're buying into ageism. You're buying into the fact that no, we should not like, you're buying into it.
The
So,
stigma issue.
yeah.
Mm.
And that really hit me. Um, and it's so bizarre how it all turned up because that was one of my thought spaces around, okay, I need to get into this. The other was my relationship had fallen over with my son's father, which was very challenging. And, you have all these things that you put on yourself, like, oh, was I not good enough? Or didn't I do enough? Like you put it back on you. I decided COVID came. And so I decided to move myself out of the city, away from my friends, away from my family, and into the country, which I felt was the right thing to do for my son because this crazy, bizarre thing had turned up and I was trying to protect him. And that worked for probably the first year or two because everybody was in lockdown and we were in this park. It was incredible. But then I suddenly started to realize that I was very isolated. I was 5 minutes from my neighbor. I was 30 minutes from a hospital and we had snakes and all sorts of things. I was chopping wood, like I was going, whatever, Michelle, you've just put yourself right out there. Um, not knowing, not knowing that I was perimenopausal. because I didn't even know about perimenopause.
Mm.
And I'm in the health industry. I thought I knew about menopause. No, I did not. I had not a clue. I was so clueless. And so I think to myself, well, if I'm as clueless as I was, then most women probably are too. And certainly being the age that I was, I was that time, I was in my late 40s. I was obviously perimenopausal, of course. And so being out of this relationship and feeling the way that I was, being challenged by that, suddenly putting myself in a very isolated position, all of these things I didn't put it all together clearly until now. But back then, I need to go to see the doctor. So I found a new doctor and I said, oh, hey, just not feeling myself. I'm waking up a lot at night. Like I'm constantly waking up and I can't go back to sleep. And most times I'm so hot and sweaty and I can smell myself in the middle of the night. Like, what the hell? But then I was waking up to the strangest sound of do you remember the old sound of the dial-up internet?
Yeah.
That's what I was waking up to. And I actually was thinking,
Oh,
we have an internet problem.
see how
I know
you're
the internet's
bringing in your
bad in the
kids.
country so much. I had a hip that was aching to the point now I was suddenly walking with a bit of a limp. And I just put that down to the fact that I'd trained all my life and thought, oh, maybe it's just old age creeping up on me. With all of these things that I presented to my doctor, now knowing what I know if I'd been the doctor, what I would have
Mm.
said. But not once was perimenopause ever mentioned. We did my tests, we did blood tests. We now know that hormone tests are useless because your hormones can change 500 times in a day virtually. But we did my bloods and they came back pretty much normal, except my good cholesterol was astronomically high, which is great, but my not good cholesterol was high. And that was odd. Nothing in my diet's changed. So my doctor was like, yeah, but your good cholesterol is so high. I'm not too worried about it. I was vitamin D deficient, not low, not really low, deficient.
Mm.
And she was like, yeah, it's probably because you're inside a lot here in the Southern Highlands. It's cold. You're not out. Just get out in the sun a bit more. Like diagnosis, I wouldn't say terrible, but now knowing what I know, they were two really clear hallmarks. And
Mm.
once again, perimenopause was not mentioned. And I was a 48-year-old woman. And then I was prescribed antidepressants,
Mm.
which I didn't take. I got the prescription, I got them, I put them on my counter, and I stared at them and I thought, is that where I'm at?
Mm.
I knowing who I am and what I stand for and everything I've accomplished in my life, like really? Am I there?
Mm.
And I didn't believe that I was. So strangely enough, in amongst all of that, I decided to move back to Sydney because I was so isolated and restart researching for a program called the Menopause Method because all of my members were asking me for it. And then suddenly the lights went on and
Lightning
I was like,
struck.
oh my God. I just was like, what the heck? That's how it started.
Oh, wow. So like on one hand, you've got, your community saying, we need this, this is a huge problem. On the other hand, you're going through this yourself without realizing
But
and
not
then
knowing.
having no idea. And then like the lightning bolt moment where
Yeah, I
the
just went,
puzzle clicked.
oh my God,
Yeah.
I am perimenopausal. And my, like, I
Yeah.
just was like, shit. It was
Wow.
amazing. It was a very big lightning bolt moment for me, especially as I dove into the research. I do that. That's my thing. I love understanding, particularly when it comes around health. That's my
Mm,
thing, right?
mm,
And
mm.
I was like, how did I miss this?
Yeah. Yeah. I think the answer to that question is something to do with systemic bias and patriarchy, and we should get to that another time. But what do you wish you had known sooner? I think, you've asked that question, how did I not know? And I think that's a huge, complex answer. But what are the sorts of things that you wish you had known about sooner, such that you could have connected some of those dots earlier? Was it education or symptoms, or like what do you think would have helped you if you'd had that information earlier?
Both of those things,
Mm,
education and understanding via the education, the symptoms. So,
mm,
you know, and also, can I just say the fact that I wasn't prepared to admit it
mm,
because I wasn't 50, I wasn't 60, and that isn't that what happens then?
mm,
You know, it's just, it all comes back to education, really. You know,
mm,
we would never let our teenagers go through their teenage years without giving them comfort and support and education.
mm,
So why would we not do that the same in this transition as well? And nonetheless, I wish I'd known about the symptoms. I wish I'd known that I wish I'd known about perimenopause. I'd
mm,
never heard of that.
mm.
I'd only ever heard of menopause.
Yeah, even just
I
the
wish I'd
word
known,
perimenopause.
yeah,
Mm,
I wish I'd known that these things will more than likely commence in your 40s. And now, given what I know, can be more severe in this bracket than in menopause. Like, I just wish I didn't even know that menopause is classified when you've no longer had a period for 12 months. I didn't know that. I just didn't know so many things. And just can I just point out here too, everything is so whack. I got my last period in 2023 Easter. I remember because it was Easter, right? It was easy to remember.
mm.
Didn't have another period. I went all year into 2024 through January, through February. I got my period 2 weeks out of being 12 months.
That's
What the? I didn't even think that was even possible.
Yeah, wow.
I had 2 weeks to go and I got my period. I was doing it could have been because of it. I was doing that show, I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. So I was in the South African jungle amongst a bunch of younger girls who were all having their periods. And suddenly I had mine. Like I had 2 weeks to go to 12 months. And I've had a period on the month ever since.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, how does that actually, you know what? I had one in August and we are now in September. I haven't had one this month. I'm waiting,
Mm,
but that's how whack things go. Like, no one is the same.
mm,
Everyone's going to be different.
mm,
So that's the other thing. The symptoms, I think, are very powerful because you just start to live with things that you think are a normal aging process. But now, given what I know, this is not a normal aging process. This is not a gradual, it's like a off the edge of a cliff.
mm, mm, mm,
And even that I didn't know.
mm,
I
mm,
think women get such a raw end of the deal when it comes to their health and their mental health, that their doctors who don't have the education, we know that, and they're putting their hands up and saying, yep, we don't, end up making you feel potentially like it's in your head.
mm.
And guess what? It's everywhere. but it's also in your head too. We know the receptors are all over your body, but they're in your brain as well. So yes, it is in your head, but not in that way. Um, that's what concerns me
Mm.
more than anything is women that are going through some very dark times. Um, I even met up with one not that long ago in my child's schoolyard when we were there for book week, and she was looking at me with eyes that were dead. And we got talking, and clearly this lady needed help.
Mm.
She was in her mid-40s, and she gave me all of the symptoms that I now know. And I was just trying to very gently say, you probably need to get with a specialist that actually specializes in menopause. And I've stayed in touch with her because I was worried about her,
Mm. Mm.
like
Oh,
really worried.
yeah. Glad she met you that day to have that
I
conversation.
said to her, there's a reason why we're having this conversation, honey.
Mm. With people who really are struggling and really going through it, what sort of advice do you give, or would you give? In this example that you've just talked about, you've stayed in touch with that person and you've been supporting them. But what sort of advice would you give for someone who's really on the ropes with going through this transition?
Well, I'm not a doctor, so, and I don't profess to be. I've just been a woman who has worked with thousands of ladies now in this arena. Um, my number one would be, first of all, you need to get with a GP who specializes, like someone who actually knows their stuff, that has taken the time to educate themselves around a lot of the latest information and research and science that's only come about even just this year. Like, I get that most GPs are really busy and really stretched. So finding a GP that has had the capacity to be able to go and educate themselves on this would be my number one. Now, whether you choose to talk with them about hormone replacement therapy or menopause replacement therapy, I think you should have that conversation. Whether you choose to go down that path or not is completely a personal choice. But it should be an educated choice. It should be that you have been able to educate yourself around all of it. So it means, like I say in the menopause method, you kind of have to become the CEO of your own life. No one's going to do it for you. And I think when we get to this age in life, we know no one's going to do anything for us. We've got to be our own advocates. But the flip side of that means that you are potentially going to support yourself better, encourage yourself better, give yourself a much clearer platform to then operate from.
Mm.
So find that person and have that GP and have that conversation and choose freely as a woman who has the ability to choose. That's the thing. I think a lot of women don't even know they've got the choice. Have that conversation, have that person in your corner. And you can do it through Zoom. You don't have to be in a city that has specialists. You can find them on Zoom and do it that way. So it's not out of your realm. Wherever you're living, even if you're living on a farm, as I was, then that's when I step in. Well, I don't have to, but here I am. And I've educated myself on all of the other holistic things because this isn't going to be a one fix. This isn't going to be, even if you did choose to take hormone replacement therapy, that ain't going to fix it all, lady. That's going to be one piece of the puzzle. Then there is a holistic approach. So getting your nutrition right, what is necessary and required for a woman in this category that's going to give her the absolute best support.
Mm.
we know the research is saying at the moment, and it could change, but right now it's saying very much Mediterranean and low carbohydrate. But there's also a bit of research coming out about soy isoflavin. So it could be an Asian fusion, which I'm going to incorporate into the next part of the menopause method. Um, then it's about exercise. I mean, God, exercise would solve world peace if people did it regularly. Like when you look at every kind of disease there is, exercise is always recommended. It's a bit of a no-brainer,
Mhm.
but certainly for women in this category, trying to maintain your muscle, so weights or weight inclined exercises is the absolute best way to go. And again, I see so much improvement in my ladies when they start doing incorporating that. And it doesn't, you don't have to train like an Olympian, but in the menopause method, we do 5 days, but only 30 minutes a day. It's like a very short blast. Then it's like looking at things like your sleep hygiene. What's your bedroom look like? Your sheets, your blankets. Who are you sleeping with? At the moment, I'm sleeping with my 8-year-old. It's not great. um, but taking care of that, taking care of your habits, routines, and rituals, not only about your nutrition, but about how you go to bed at night. Are you up watching Netflix? Are you on your screen right before you go to bed? These are things that can definitely have a negative impact on your sleep. Then there's things like connection. Are you connecting to your family? Are you connecting to your friends? Or are you kind of shying away? And why that is? Connection is ultimately very, very powerful and really important for a woman at this age. Your work and your career, like this is a time when most women are kicking goals and doing incredible things in their career, but they're also trying to look after a family and elderly parents, and there's a lot going on. So what are we doing in the workplace to support women? That's something that's in the parliament now, as you know. um yeah, that are a handful of things, and there's more, but there are a handful of things that can make an incredible impact on your symptoms. Action them, you go, oh my God, I'm back.
Mm. I think that's the key point is around action. The education and awareness, we're making progress there, and that's so important. And we want to understand ourselves and what we're experiencing and connecting the dots. But then how do we start to put some of this into practice
Yeah.
and really bring it to life and implement changes and have support to do that? And I think, there's a lot of interconnectedness and there's a lot of things we can do, which can feel overwhelming as well. It's like, well, I've got to get the right GP and then I've got to get my nutrition right and I've got to get my exercise right and then I've got my sleep right. I think that can feel big when it's, when we think about it at a big picture. But the things that you've just described are really simple everyday habits that people can start to layer on and make small changes every day, and they're the things that add up and really compound over time. And I think it's so helpful to hear you speaking like that and just hear those really actionable, tangible things that people could listen to this and straight away go and implement. Maybe you end up doing the menopause method. Hopefully you find an amazing GP who can help support you on a journey, but also there's little things that we can do every day to that can make a huge difference. So thank you for sharing some of those. And I think that's part of the work here is to really think through what we're working towards in this next stage of life and kind of that hope and aspiration that the best is yet to come. But
I
what's
believe it really is. I
yeah.
I do believe that. Like there was moments there in my late 40s that I was like, there were moments of thoughts. I kept thinking, why am I thinking like
Mm,
something bad's gonna happen? There was a bit of doom.
mm,
Um, I've fortunately found my way out of that through some great support. And, my exercise is my rock. But I actually do believe being a 53, nearly 54-year-old woman, I loved my 20s. oh my God, I had the best time in my 30s and 40s. But I'm in a place now that's really different, but I suddenly now feel empowered. Um, and I think I've got a lot to look forward to. And provided I take care of my health, this could be a really incredible chapter,
Mm.
like really incredible.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I think there's something really beautiful in hearing, what's possible for the next chapter and how to think about that in a positive way, because I think a lot of what we see and hear and experience is really challenging because it is really challenging. Like it's hard. So, the impact of some of these symptoms can be absolutely devastating. And
Mm.
we need to talk about those stories and tell those stories. But I think also there's a lot of silver linings and, brightness that can come through any transition in life. And so, just hearing a bit about what you're excited for and that belief that, the best really is yet to come. What are some of the things that you are really excited about or you think have been the positives to, you know, going through perimenopause and now working with so many people through the menopause method that you might have
Look,
seen in
I
stories?
think that statement of the best is yet to come. Like I remember hearing an interview. I remember I was only in my 30s, early 30s, and I was listening to this interview with a woman who was my age, and she was saying what I just said, and I was like, really? Was she just saying that? Really? I didn't believe it. I wasn't on board, yeah, as an early, like 32, 33-year-old woman. So I don't want to say the best is yet to come because the best has been there. I've had the best in my 20s. I had the best in my 30s. Oh my God, my 40s were amazing. Um, I think it's and the newness is yet to come.
Mm.
Like I'm so much smarter than what I was back then. I'm so much more able to be uh, boundaries
Mm.
driven. Back then, I didn't have boundaries and I didn't take care of myself in that way. I got into situations and relationships that didn't work for me. Now I'm in a place of like, I know my worth. I know who I want to hang out with and who I don't want to hang out with. I think there's a lot to be said of who the people that you choose to be in company of. Um, I feel excited that I'm very fortunate that I can be independent and the incredible, oh God, just energy that women have.
Mm. Mm.
And I just love it. So for me, in this chapter, I feel there's going to be a lot of female empowerment, sisterhood, and I'm here for it. Like for me, that's this next chapter. I'm so here for it. Kind of done with the fellas. There's some great men out there. They're lovely men out there, but I'm just really right now in about female empowerment.
Mm. Yeah. And I think when women come together, amazing things happen. Um,
Yes.
and, the 1 + 1 = 10. I think when women are supporting each other and collaborating and creating, and I think, yeah, I'm excited about that too. And yeah, it's
I think that particularly with this topic, um, man, this we are all about to set this on fire. I can feel it. I can feel it. Uh,
amazing.
and already even I talk to my counterparts, our male constituents. There's already a lot of men entering my orbit around this topic and saying, "What can I do to help?" I'm like, "Yes, it's incredible." So
Yeah.
I feel like there's big change coming,
Mm.
and I feel happy and proud for the ladies that are coming behind us
Yeah. Well,
because
thank you
we're doing the
so
work.
much. Yeah, thank you so, so much for your time and this beautiful conversation. Let's light it up. And
Yeah.
the matches have been struck. And yeah, really looking forward to seeing what you do next, and collaborating with you into the future. But thank you again for such an amazing conversation that I know is really going to help a lot of people think about what they need to know, how to get help, and think about a really bright future ahead.
Yeah. Thank you. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for asking me on. I feel very honored.
Ish.